Welcome back to the Ninth Circle with your host and demon of choice, Bill. We're back with, this is my first in a new series called Documents of Depravity. Let's turn that down. You know, I like the loud jams, but sometimes it feels like it's overpowering me. What we're listening to, the suitably crushing death metal in the background, this is a 2018 reissue of Vermin's Plunge into Oblivion here. Not the original artwork, you'll know. Yeah, so this is an LP reissue from about 5 years ago. This is on To the Death Records. A lot of people have been showing the CD version of this recently, but this is kind of an obscure early 90s Swedish death metal record. This is the first record by this band. Really good stuff, though. If you're into classic Swedish death metal, I guess I'll show that back again there. You can't go wrong with this. So, To the Death by Vermin. So as I said, Documents of Depravity, which are show stories and other crazy events related to music or my life. So, 2 stories here in this one. We're going to start with 2003, October 2003. So at that time, I was living in Columbia, Missouri. There was a tour, I believe it was called the Art of Noise Part 2 tour. So this tour was Nile, Creator, Vader, Amon Amarth, and Goat Whore, all touring together. So I was a huge Nile fan at the time. I think Nile had probably just released their 3rd album around that time, and were touring for it. Creator had released Violent Revolution a couple years before, but I mean, it was exciting to see, like, you know, Creator were playing a bunch of old thrash stuff again. Vader, I think The Beast was the album that they were on, which I believe is the last album with Doc Coyle as the drummer. Amon Amarth, of course, was riding high on The Crusher, their 3rd record. And I think Goat Whore had released their 2nd record like a few years earlier, that Dirge for the Rotting Sun or whatever. Anyway, so my buddy Ryan and I decided, I think it was a Friday night, we went down to Pops in Sauget, Illinois. Sauget is it's a little town. It's across the Mississippi River from St. Louis. I mean, it's basically like, it's a couple miles from downtown St. Louis. It's just that it's on the other side of the river. And Sauget's kind of a rough area, but whatever. So, Columbia, where we lived, it was about a 3-hour drive from there to St. Louis. So, you know, we drive down there. We're in good spirits. You know, I hadn't been to Pops before at that point, but Pops was like a fortress. They had the whole parking lot was like fenced in with barbed wire on the top and security. So you're like, okay, nobody's going to fuck with the car or anything like that. You know, nothing to worry about. Go in, see Goat Whore. They're fine. I've never been a huge Goat Whore fan. I really love Acid Bath, you know. I mean, Sammy was in Acid Bath. I do love Acid Bath. A couple albums of Crowbar he was on I really like, but I've just never, I've never really been into Goat Whore. I don't know why. I think some of it's like a lot of their more recent albums are just really slick to me and overly polished and just don't do it for me. But anyway, I watched Goat Whore. Yeah, all well and good. Amon Amarth comes on, and you know, like I said, Amon Amarth were still a death metal band at this point. I mean, I think Amon Amarth nowadays are a lot more kind of power metal-y, sing-songy. Fine. I mean, I'm not really into what Amon Amarth does now, but the first few Amon Amarth records, I will admit I have an affinity for, especially like the one sent from the Golden Hall and the Avenger and stuff like that. You know, so this was they had that and one more record. So I mean, they were pretty good. They put on a pretty good show. But of course, it was not like the massive stage productions they are today. They were still, in the U.S., they were still not a very popular band 20 years ago. Then Vader comes on. You know, Vader were really good. You know, Vader. I mean, you know, there's not a whole lot of variety in what Vader does, but they're playing all the good tracks off of Ultimate Incarnation and Ultimate, and you know, other early stuff. You know, of course, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, like all the good Vader stuff. And then Crater were awesome. I mean, they're ripping through all the fucking classics off of, Terrible Certainty and Coma of Souls and Extreme Aggression. Great, ripping it up. Nile comes on, finishes off the show, and those first 3 Nile albums are awesome, Again, I'm not a huge fan of anything really after the first 3, but this was like right after, not too long after the 3rd album came out, so yeah, I was happy as a pig in shit with the Nile performance, so great, good night. Get in the car, we decide, we had a friend, Tony, who lived in St. Louis, and we're like, okay, well, before we head back to Columbia, because it's a long-ass drive, and it's like, I don't know, it's probably like, because it was an all-ages show, so it's probably like 10 o'clock at night, not too late. We're like, let's drive back through St. Louis, let's stop at this diner that's right by our friend Tony's house, and then we'll stop in and, shoot the shit with Tony for a little bit, so we go, we park, we go into the diner, eat food. We parked down a side street, it was like maybe like 2 blocks, a block and a half away from where the diner was on kind of a main thoroughfare, and this, we parked on like a side street that's all like old houses, old row houses, very early 20th century style row houses. So anyway, go and eat food. We're walking back to my friend Ryan's car, and I see this dude sitting on, like, the steps, there's these cement steps, and he's just sitting there, and I'm thinking, okay, I mean, it's a little weird, but I know this is a Friday night, I'm like, maybe he's waiting for, like, a friend to come pick him up or something, so we get up parallel to him, and this dude jumps up, kind of jumps to a standing position from the stairs, and he jumps up, and he reaches behind him, and pulls out of the small of his back, pulls out a gun. And cocks it, and he just like walks up and he's like, drop your shit, motherfuckers, drop your shit. And we're just like, whoa, okay, like, putting our hands up. And then another guy, apparently there's another guy who's hiding behind like parked cars on the other side, the side facing the street. He comes running out. So we pull out, like I pull out my wallet, and I just like drop it on the ground. And my buddy Ryan, he does the same thing. And these dudes are kind of like, the one guy has the gun on us, and the other guy is just kind of like going through our wallets, just like, seeing if there's seeing if he can find anything valuable. So, in this few seconds, I mean, it seems like forever, in these few seconds, while this is happening, I'm sitting here thinking, because I didn't have a lot of money on me, and I don't think Ryan did either. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, best case scenario, these guys just fucking pistol whip us when they find out we're broke as shit. I had like $8 in my pocket, because back then, debit cards weren't really a thing, so I just pulled out some cash for the show. I mean, we'd already paid for our tickets and stuff, and the tickets were like, again, this was before like the smartphone thing, so it was like, I think our tickets, we had them mailed to us, and just so I pulled out like $40 for the night. I bought like a t-shirt, and then I had like $20 for like going out to eat afterwards. So I think I had like $8 left in my fucking wallet, and I think Ryan told me he had like $20 left in his wallet. So I'm like, these guys are either they're gonna beat the shit out of us when they see we're broke, or maybe they're just gonna fucking shoot us, because I don't know, maybe they're on fucking drugs, I don't know. So anyway, I mean, all that's going through my head. There was, not that far from us, like on that same street, there was this bar that was on the corner, and this bar apparently had like an exit that came out the side onto that side street, and so several people they come out that door, and they're walking on the street, and I hear like, there's like a screen door that kind of creaks as these people are coming out of this bar, and these people are talking, and these 2 dudes, they get spooked, I guess, they get freaked out, because they're probably like, oh shit, there's other people on the street, and so they just are like, they book it. They're just like, let's get the fuck out of here, and they run. And so we're sitting there, and I think both of us are kind of just in shock, like, holy shit, we just got robbed at gunpoint. But after a few seconds, I'm thrilled, because I'm like, holy shit, we didn't get beaten up, we didn't get shot. I lost $8, I didn't lose my cell phone, though. I mean, my cell phones were primitive back then. I had a cell phone, but it wasn't anything great. But they didn't even get, like, our cell phones. They didn't try to steal the car or anything. But my buddy Ryan was way more spooked. He was all freaked out, and he was just like, you know, they got our IDs, driver's licenses, all that shit. And so he was like, I can't drive back tonight. So we walked back to our friend Tony's apartment that was not that far from there, and we're telling him, like, dude, we just got robbed. And, you know, and he's like, are you fucking serious? And we're like, yeah, we got robbed. Call the cops. Cops come, you know, we file a report and all that shit. And, you know, Ryan's like, I can't drive. He's like, I'm going to have my girlfriend. My girlfriend's going to have to drive down tomorrow and pick us up. We're going to have to spend the night, you know? And I was like, okay, I guess, yeah. I mean, so I called my girlfriend and was like, yeah, I'm not coming back tonight. We got robbed at gunpoint. She's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, we're fine. I'm like, my buddy Ryan's just really freaked out. He doesn't have his driver's license. He's worried about getting pulled over. So we spent the night. You know, nothing ever came of it. I mean, the dumb thing is back then I was dumb, and I used to carry my Social Security card in my wallet with me. So I lost my fucking ID and my Social Security card in one fell swoop, which, let me tell you, was a huge fucking hassle. It took me 6 months before I could get a new Social Security card and get a new driver's license, because guess what? You can't get a new driver's license if you don't have a fucking Social Security card or some other kind of picture ID to prove who you are. But anyway, that was one of those things where you're like, wow, lesson learned, don't fucking carry your goddamn Social Security card around with you. Never do. Okay, second story, 2008. So 5 years later, I'm living in the Salt Lake area. You know, at this point, I've lived in the Salt Lake area for 2 years. So, the tour is, it's Watain and Book of Black Earth and Wretched. Wretched, I've never been a big fan of. I know they were kind of a big deal. I think they had just put out their second album, and it was getting a lot of hype and everything like that. I know Book of Black Earth, who were a death metal band that put out a couple records. Their first record was actually on 20 Buck Spin way back in like 06. One of the earliest 20 Buck Spin releases. Second album, I think, was on Prosthetic. The most noteworthy thing about Book of Black Earth, though, is that the one dude in that band became King Dude. So if you like King Dude, that guy used to be, I think, one of the guitarists in Book of Black Earth in the early 2000s. So anyway, so Dave, the guitarist in my band, and I, we were going to go see Watain, you know, because this was like maybe Watain's second tour of the U.S. Sworn to the Dark had come out a few months earlier, and, you know, I mean, it was getting a lot of hype, you know, I thought it was okay, but I really liked, you know, Rabid Death's Curse, Castus Luciferi. I was really into those records, and I was hearing, like, how awesome Watain's stage show was, with, like, them being smeared in blood, and them having, like, carry-in on their mic stands, all that sort of stuff, you know. They were playing small clubs back then. So anyway, so we go to this place called Club Vegas, which no longer exists anymore in Salt Lake. Go there for the show, and there was a local opener called Black Seas of Infinity, kind of a dark ambient sort of project. Anyway, we find out Wretched van problems, they're not showing up, which I'm like, okay, I don't fucking care, because I didn't really like them. So we're watching Black Seas of Infinity, and Black Seas of Infinity, it's like, there's like kind of like pre-recorded music, and it's like this satanic ritual thing. There's a guy in like black robes, and he's doing this ritual, ringing these bells, burning incense. I mean, it's all, you know, you're like, it's all artsy. But then at one point, he pulls out a snake, and he has this snake, and he's got like a chalice, right, that he's filled with wine. Well, he cuts the snake, and and it's a real snake. You can see it moving. It's a live snake. And you can see him cut the snake and, like, squeeze, like, snake blood into this chalice with wine, and then he puts the snake back in a bag, you know, and he, like, raises the chalice, and he's, like, drinking the snake blood wine mix, right? And, of course, everybody's watching this, and he's passing the chalice around, and people are taking swigs out of the, you know, the chalice of wine and snake blood. The Watain dudes, they're all into it. They're right up there. Eric Danielson grabs that thing and he takes a big swig. And, I'm thinking, this is cool in a way, but it's also, I don't know, kind of goofy. You know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy, but it's like I'm watching, like, Satanic Church, and I'm like, I'm just not a church guy, whether it be Christian church or Satanic Church. So I'm sort of like, okay, well, this is definitely a memorable thing, So, the Black Seas Infinity gets done, but that's the most memorable thing. The music itself is just sort of, it's there, but it's not anything real mind-blowing. Book of Black Earth plays. They're fine. They sound kind of like second-rate Unleashed. Not terrible, not great. They're fine. So, Watain finally takes the stage, and of course, the stench near the stage is horrible, because they've got, like, fucking, like, all these, like, dead rats and shit, like, lined up on their mic stands, like, on the base of their mic stands. And if you get near the stage, you can smell it, and it does not smell good. They walk out, they're all smeared in blood, and they start playing, things like that. They're playing a few songs, and they're good, and they're really good. So there's this fucking Nazi skinhead dude there. I mean, this guy is fully decked out. He's got, like, flight jacket, shaved head. He's got, like, white braces on, and you're like, okay, what's this guy gonna do? He's standing up there, he's with a few buddies or whatever, I think he's with a guy, and he's with a girl, and he's up there, and he's, like, all into Watain or whatever, and he gets right up to the stage, and he starts, I can't remember what song Watain was playing, but he starts Sieg Heiling, like, at Watain, right? So, he Sieg Heils, like, Eric, and then he, like, grabs Eric's boot. Well, Eric picks up his bass, and he fucking slams it right into the top of this Nazi dude's head. Just, like, picks it up and just, like, and, like, the dude goes down. He knocks the dude out with his bass. Just fucking knocks him out. He just collapses on the ground. And then there's a big commotion all of a sudden. It's like all these people in the crowd kind of like swarm around this guy. Like, this guy's friends are like, they're trying to pick him up. They're trying to wake him up. And, like, Eric stops, the band stops, and he's kind of like, you motherfucker, you fucking piece of shit. He's like yelling at this guy. This guy's not even conscious for, like, probably a minute. His friends wake him up. They kind of pick him up off the ground. And he's like, you can tell he's like out of it. He's like, can't walk by himself. And meanwhile, everybody's kind of mobbed these people. And they're like, fuck you, motherfucker. Get the fuck out of here. Fucking Eric jumps down off the stage. And he's like, you think you're a true Aryan, you motherfucker? And he's like pushing these dudes. Pushing them. And they're just trying to get, they're like, these Nazi fuckers, like, everybody's ready to kill him. Everybody's like, fuck you. Get out of here. We're gonna fucking kill you, And I'm laughing my ass off. I'm standing here watching this. I'm like, yeah, fuck this Nazi piece of shit. Like, if this guy gets killed, he deserves it. He deserves it. So, they get it. His friends get him out of there. But meanwhile, people are pushing them. People are, like, forcing them out. And, like, Eric kind of, like, runs up. And at one point, he's like standing there and he's, like, chasing them out. He's standing by me at one point. And I'm kind of, like, patting him on the shoulder, and he's just like, all right. And he goes back and gets up on stage, and he picks up his bass, just start playing again like nothing happened, Fucking Nazis gone. Dude had fucking blood gushing from his head, because he was a fucking dumb shit, and he deserved it, Moral of that story: fuck Nazis. Don't come to fucking black metal shows. So that was a memorable fucking show. Watching somebody get their fucking head bashed in. Little side note, Gavin, the drummer in my band, he was at that show. That was like the first time I met him. I didn't get to talk to him much, but I think he fucking like ended up almost getting into a fight with those Nazis too, like outside afterwards. So he would be. I don't know all the details on that, but he's kind of told me that story before. So anyway. That's what I got for you, a little kind of long, rambling documents of depravity, but 2 fucking show stories filled with a little chaos and a little excitement there. So, next time I will probably be doing my Attack of the Clones. That'll be my next video. I've got the first band up on deck. I'm not going to tell you which one. We'll make that a surprise. So, thank you for visiting me in the Ninth Circle. I'll see you next time.